Ottawa.
CIWW City News Time, 9 o'clock.
Number 1 for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Wednesday, January 27th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, minus 6 degrees. Here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. City Council in Ottawa will look ahead to the rest of this year in municipal politics as they gather for the first meeting of the calendar year. A wide-ranging agenda will touch on COVID-19, electric vehicles, renaming some streets as well. City News reporter Chris Curries with a look ahead.
The meeting will start with Jim Watson's State of the City address, where the mayor will discuss 2020 in Ottawa and look ahead to 2021, one that's likely still to be dominated by COVID-19. Case in point, one motion up for debate is the extension of the mandatory mask bylaw until the end of April in all public spaces. Now, some non-pandemic related items include the renaming of Langevin Avenue that's in the Beechwood area after a respected Indigenous leader. The current name has ties to the residential school system. Also, a potential pilot project for electric vehicles for the Ottawa Police Service, and a big vote on the Byward Market Public Realm Plan. It's a $129 million decision that would see updated green and pedestrian spaces along with a new destination building on Clarence. Chris Curries, City News.
City News Time, 9:01. A group of over 200 doctors and researchers urging the province to address a humanitarian crisis, the rising number of COVID-19 deaths in long-term care. In a letter, the group says the province does not appear to have learned from the deadly nursing home outbreaks during wave 1 of the pandemic. It is recommending a series of sweeping changes across that sector to help save lives as this pandemic continues. Now, in neighboring Quebec, the government says it is not challenging a temporary court order. It was granted yesterday, exempting the homeless from a province-wide curfew imposed to limit the spread of COVID-19. The junior health minister said in a tweet this morning the government will modify its curfew decree to ensure those without shelter will not be subject to the measure. City News Time, 9:02, and now your forecast with meteorologist Jill Taylor.
Any flurries will come to an end. Mainly cloudy, some sunny breaks, a high -5. It'll feel colder, though, with the wind. Tonight, mainly cloudy, -15. And tomorrow, sunny, colder, northwest wind, the high just -12. For today, the high, -5.
And right now in Ottawa and Smiths Falls, it's -6 degrees. 3 people accused of supplying ammunition to the gunman who murdered 22 people in the April mass shooting in Nova Scotia, all scheduled for court hearings today. The Mounties have charged Lisa Banfield, she is a 52-year-old spouse of the killer, with unlawfully transferring ammunition. Police have also laid the same charge against a 52-year-old man and a 60-year-old man. The charges against the 3 announced in early December. Police have said those charged had no prior knowledge, though, of the gunman's actions. According to those who took part in an independent probe, former Governor General Julie Payette's workplace behavior went beyond verbal harassment of staff. For some, it included unwelcome physical contact that made them feel threatened. The CBC says claims were reported in testimony given to Quintet Consulting during interviews that will be included in the final report. Payette received the report last week and offered her resignation immediately. The Prime Minister facing renewed criticism over his approach to choosing the former astronaut for that job. Justin Trudeau said late last week the vetting process would be strengthened and approved for all high-level appointments. I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Separating headlines
from hearsay.
It's the Rob Snow Show on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
I'm cranky today. May as well let you know right from the get-go. I'm a little on the cranky side. It's just a bunch of little things. Okay, maybe a few big things. They're all conspiring to put me in a cranky mood. Maybe you can cheer me up as the morning goes on. Good morning. Rob Snow Show, Rogers TV, City News, Talkback Hour, coming up between 10 and 11 o'clock. Phone calls, opinions. You know, misery loves company. 750-1310. 750-1310. 613-750-1310, The Rob Snow Show at ottawa.citynews.ca. Why am I cranky? Well, what's got you down, Rob? Well, look, this is just a small thing, okay? And I know you don't sweat the small stuff, but I'm driving in this morning, eastbound on the Queensway, just past downtown, and the weather's not the greatest. Lots of snow fell yesterday, right? The highway's fine. It's very wet. Need lots of windshield fluid, but there's salt all over the windshield, salt all over the headlights, and there's a driver in this Toyota Corolla, and this drives me around the bend, okay? This person didn't bother cleaning off the rear windshield of their car. Like lots of snow last night, so the snow is flying off the car, and it's going all over the place, and it's compromising my visibility. And you know what drove me? As I got even closer to this car, I noticed that this driver had actually only cleaned off half of the rear windshield of their vehicle. Half. The driver's side, half. Who does that? I just thought to myself, how lazy can someone be? How self-absorbed, how inconsiderate are you that you would only scrape off half of the rear windshield of your car? And I thought we were all in this together. You know? So that driver, you have to picture it. You zoom past downtown and you go to the right to come down to Walkley Road here, and you can get off at Innis. So that bozo gets off at Innis, and then another car gets onto the 417. And they're driving a little black, it looks like a Mazda 3 sedan as far as I could tell. It was hard to tell because they didn't have their headlights or taillights turned on. Now, David drives a Mazda 3. David, because this car was about 10 years old, okay? It's a Mazda 3 sedan, okay?
Yes.
Do you have to actually turn the headlights physically on and off? Is that a very arduous task, or do you have automatic headlights and they come on and off automatically?
Well, it's not automatic.
Not automatic.
It's a quarter turn. I wouldn't call it arduous.
Oh, it's not arduous, right? So here it is. It is pitch dark outside at 6 o'clock in the morning. There's salt spraying all over the place. People in a hurry. It's what passes for morning rush hour right now. And this person's driving out there in these conditions. No headlights, no taillights on. Basically, this person thinks they're driving the Batmobile. Okay? They're in stealth mode, right? You can hardly see this vehicle on the Queensway until you're right on top of it. Come on, people. Come on. Do you know what you're doing to me? These are stressful times. I have a lot on my mind. Seriously, 6 o'clock in the morning, rush hour, Queensway, middle of winter, no headlights, no taillights. We are all in this together, okay? So, yeah, that's the small stuff. That's just the small stuff. And you know what? It is spoiling what is otherwise my normal sunny disposition that I'm famous for. And then you have Dr. Fauci. Jen and I were scrolling through the news. We're doom scrolling yesterday afternoon. And Jen says to me, Dr. Fauci says we need to wear 2 masks now. And I said, you've got to be kidding me. 2 masks? I should be wearing 2 masks? Double masking? Well, we went looking here at the Rob Snow Show. It's not quite what he said when he was on the Today Show on NBC on Monday. He said, it's probably not a bad idea. It's common sense to wear 2 masks.
A lot of folks are hearing now about double masking, wearing 2 masks or trying to get one of those N95 medical grade masks. Do you believe that that's
You know, it likely does because, I mean, this is a physical covering to prevent droplets and virus to get in. So if you have a physical covering with 1 layer, you put another layer on, it just makes common sense that it likely would be more effective. And that's the reason why you see people either double masking or doing a version of an N95.
As we await this vaccine rollout.
All right. So what he didn't say is, no, you don't have to do that. right? Basically what he said is it's common sense. Two masks.
Put another layer on, it just makes common sense.
It's common sense. 2 masks are better than 1. And then I read this morning there are parts of Germany, you want to go into a store, you want to ride public transit, a cloth mask isn't good enough anymore. Medical grade, surgical grade. And I just keep thinking, is this our future? Is this our future? It's almost February. Double masking, surgical masks, because of these variants. This is what has people worried. The mutant strains, right? It just never ends. I mean, it used to be no mask. You don't need a mask. A mask could probably make things worse. You'll touch your face, right? Don't touch your face. We went from that to, okay, masks probably not a bad idea. If you want to wear a mask, go ahead and wear a mask, to masks are essential. Don't leave home without it. Masks are the law. We'll give you a fine if you don't wear one. I mean, is this it now? Maybe this is where we're going? 2 masks, surgical grade masks. Is this where we are? That's so thoroughly depressing. Then, Blacklock's reporter. I love you guys. Gosh almighty. Holly Doan and the team there. I am a subscriber. You should be too. They dropped this incredible story this morning. Maybe we can get into this during the talk back hour. How much did you make at your summer job? How's that for a question? Did you make $2,000 a month as a 15-year-old at your summer job? What about you, David, working at the golf course? You make $2,000 a month? I might, when I was, honestly, it's been a long time since I had a summer job as a high school student. I graduated from high school in 1989, right? I graduated, what year were you born?
Me? 97.
97, right? Yeah. So I could work all summer, and I did work all summer and not make $2,000.
The first year I worked, my old man did my taxes, and he said, you made $5,000 this year. What did you do with it? Where did it go?
For the year.
For the year. Right, that's right. Part-time minimum wage.
Not $2,000 a month.
No.
Blacklock's reporter has a story this morning about how many high school students cash CERB payments. How many of them cashed in on the CERB. High school, right? They don't have university tuition to pay for. Guess how much? Guess how much money? How about $635,980,000? Almost $636 million in CERB payments to high schoolers. $2,000 a month to people in high school, to children in high school. And that included more than 40,000 15-year-olds who collectively cashed in more than $81 million worth of CERB. I don't know. Do you have an opinion on that? Can you call me during the talk back hour? Am I just being a sourpuss this morning thinking that's very generous? As all of this has gone on, I do count my blessings, okay? I am one of the lucky ones. I have had a job through all of this. Never lost a paycheck. More than happy to pay taxes to help fund social programs, to help people out, people who really need help. 15-year-olds? How many 15-year-olds needed a $2,000 CERB payment? Well, apparently more than 40,000 of them. 92,000 16-year-olds, 184,000 17-year-olds. How many of them still live at home? And for how many of them, $2,000 a month? It was a big fat raise compared to whatever they were making before. Oh, that's a heck of a story this morning. From the team at Blacklocks. No wonder I'm cranky. Then you have, people like Julie Payette, ex-Governor General, allegations of physical contact as part of the toxic workplace in City Hall. Work for 3 years, collect a lifetime pension of $150,000 a year. The Canadian government says the average monthly CPP payment for 2020 was $689 a month. A little more than $8,000 a year. Hey, you get 4 CERB checks for that. For millions of people. That's all they had. Worked a lot longer than 3 years to earn it, too. And the news on the vaccine, I mean, it just keeps going from bad to worse, right? Bombshell report from iPolitics. Charlie Pinkerton with the scoop of the last 24 hours. He's going to join us this morning. Get some political reaction from the conservative side from Michelle Rempel-Garner. The Trudeau government, in its infinite wisdom, signed on to a partnership, you may be aware, with a Chinese company called CanSino to run a trial on a coronavirus vaccine. This was back in May of last year, early May. Within 3 days of announcing that agreement, within 3 days of the Prime Minister announcing that deal, the Prime Minister knew it was dead. 3 days later, just 3 days later, the company's shipments to Canada of what is known as the seed, the candidate vaccine, blocked by Chinese government officials at the Beijing airport, blocked all shipments that were supposed to go to Dalhousie University in Halifax in early May. The Trudeau government didn't sign agreements with Pfizer and Moderna until August of that same year. All the while, what's happening now? We have no Pfizer shipments. City has no idea when it will get more Pfizer vaccine. We have mutant strains of the virus, and we have the EU threatening to block exports of whatever supply remains available right now. No wonder I'm cranky. This is City News.
I always knew I was going to own my own business, and I've always wanted to have a store. And I sort of figured when the right concept came together at the right time, I would move forward with that plan. And so through doing some environmental initiatives in the restaurant group that I was with prior to opening this store, it just triggered my path towards being more environmentally conscientious and wanting to make more of a difference, and hopefully encouraging, inspiring other people to want to do the same, at which point the idea for All Eco was born. I have some really fun products. I have a really wide spectrum of products. So the things we look for in terms of qualifying products are sustainably made, upcycled, recycled, zero waste, all natural, no harmful chemicals to like the environment or to our bodies. We have like fun stuff, so like really clean burning candles, lots of really natural body care and skin care. I put a real emphasis on Canadian products. I really try to support up and comers, and I always source Canada first. The refill bar is really important to me. It's really huge. I think that's been exciting as well, because I thought it was going to be a real process in convincing people that this is a better way to go. And actually it was just like right away there was a built-in affinity towards doing refill, which has been great. We closed, I think, probably we were closed down by before the second week of March. Just didn't feel we could comfortably or confidently stay open, even though I do sell essential products, like in terms of the cleaning. But we just didn't feel we could make a safe space for ourselves or our customers at that time, and especially with the information we had at the time. So we did close our doors, at which point I did not have a website, because that was I hadn't even scheduled myself to have a website at that point. So that was sort of like full speed moving towards that and trying to drive the business, at the same time still get myself on the map because I was so new. So during that time, as we were building the website, we were still doing a lot of video shopping and private shopping, online shopping, like online phone, text. Any way I could do business, I was doing it. And there was really a nice show of support for my business during that time, which was really, really encouraging. And now, we are fully set up online too.
The opinionated Ottawa icon.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Imagine trying to live on $24 a week for food. Could you feed yourself on $24 a week? Can't even imagine. Starting February 1st, running until the 7th, 22 participants will try and do just that as part of the Operation Come Home $24 Challenge. And Elspeth McKay joins me, Executive Director, Operation Come Home. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
Fine, thanks.
Good. $24 a week.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I'm one of the participants.
Holy cow. I mean, why that number? Why $24 a week? How do you come at that number?
Well, it's an average number for people that are living on social assistance after they've paid all their other expenses, including rent, transportation, utilities, water, internet, all of the basic bills that everyone would have to pay when they're living in a room or in a bachelor apartment.
That's what they have left over.
That's what they have left over, yeah. And that's assuming nothing else comes up, nothing else in terms of, medications or clothing.
Yeah. Right. So I just did some quick math here. $3.42 a day.
That's correct. $3.42 a day.
And that is an everyday experience for somebody on social assistance?
That is an everyday.
That's their life, right?
That's their life, yeah. And so when people are wondering about why so many people have to use a food bank, this would be a good example of why.
So how do people do it? $24 a week. I mean, people do it, right?
People do it, yeah. I mean, people use food banks. They learn how to cook with what they get in a food bank, which is often canned products and a lot of dried beans and lentils and that kind of thing.
Right.
And, you use coupons and you learn to stretch your budget as far as you can and make, whatever you're given at a food bank, and then you offset that with the small amount of money that you have.
Yeah, which is, there's nothing left over, right? There's nothing left over. $24 a week. So starting February 1st, so you have found people who are going to try this out.
Yes.
For a week.
I'm one of those people.
You're one of those people.
I am. I've done it before.
You've done it before?
I have.
And how did you do it?
It was really, really difficult.
Right.
So I'll tell you one way that, I'm doing it with a second person. And so our budget is now $48 instead of $24.
Right. Okay.
And so that's, you have more purchasing power with that amount of money. But I've tried to figure out exactly what I'm going to make and what I'm going to buy in order to be able to survive on that amount of grocery money for 1 week. I can say I'm certainly not looking forward to it.
No.
Because it's going to be a big change in normally what I would be able to purchase for food.
Right. So you're thinking, you must be just thinking basic staples, right?
I'm thinking
like rice, canned goods, bread, potatoes, maybe pasta,
eggs.
Something like that. Eggs.
Yeah.
Eggs. I don't know. Eggs might be a luxury on $24 a week, $3.42 a day.
Yeah.
Eggs are probably a luxury.
It is a luxury, but
right.
I mean, eating eggs, it can be less expensive than buying some of the canned foods or boxed pastas and things like that.
Right. It must be so hard to eat healthy on that kind of budget.
It's impossible. That's what I'm going to miss the most is fresh produce and vegetables.
Fruits, vegetables, meat.
Out of the question.
Right.
There'll be no protein whatsoever.
No protein, right.
No protein.
Yeah.
No.
Milk. Right.
No milk.
No. 2 liters of milk and there's your $3 gone.
Yeah, no, there's no way we'll be able to afford any milk.
Right.
No. So it's going to be a tough week for sure. And for the other 21 participants, some of whom have been doing this or have done this before, like me, and then we have some brand new people like the owner of Knifeware and the manager of Knifeware in the Glebe. They're both going to be doing it. And, this will be their first time doing it. Now, one of them used to be a chef, so he might be able to figure out how to better stretch his $24.
Sure. Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, I think it'd be a rude awakening for a lot of people. I don't know. I've already spent more than $3 on food just today.
Well, just imagine one cup
I
of
had
coffee.
one. I have a takeout coffee here. It was $2.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and if you go to like an expensive coffee shop, it's going to be even more than $2.
Yeah. So obviously, this is it's to raise awareness about food insecurity, poverty, homelessness, right? People on the edge.
Yep.
And Operation Come Home deals with those people all the time, right?
That's correct. We do.
Tell us about some of the services at Operation Come Home. What are you doing there?
Well, the main services that we provide are helping young people finish high school, find work.
Yeah.
Work in because we operate a couple of businesses, Food Works and Bottle Works.
Okay.
So for those young people that aren't quite ready to get a job in the community, they would work in one of our businesses.
Right.
We also have a large housing team. We help young people find places to live, which is difficult.
What's that like right now? We have a housing crisis right now. Affordable housing crisis.
Yeah, we have a housing crisis right now, but it's not a new crisis. It's been a housing crisis in Ottawa for years.
It's worse, though, right?
It is worse, yes. Although in the situation of COVID, as a result of the pandemic, some students have not come back to Ottawa to study, and that has opened up the vacancy market for us a little bit.
Okay.
We've got a little bit of room there right now.
Right. So Food Works, you said, and Drink Works?
Food Works and Bottle Works.
Bottle Works, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do they do? Those programs?
So Bottle Works is a bottle pickup business.
Oh, bottle pickup business.
Yeah,
okay.
and as a result of the pandemic, we've pivoted to primarily residential pickup because it's pretty hard these days to find places to take your empty bottles back. So we come and collect all those bottles, and we have neighbors in different communities that stockpile those bottles for us, and then they call us when they need us to come and get them all.
Okay.
So.
And the Food Works is?
And Food Works is a catering business.
Oh, okay.
And so we obviously haven't been doing a lot of catering in this past 9 months.
What would you cater, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we're actually located now, though, at 571 Gladstone Avenue, and there's a takeout window there.
Oh, okay.
So we've just moved into that new location, so we are going to be selling products out the window, but we haven't started that yet, but we will be very shortly.
And do you find that this is, can it be a path to more permanent employment, more stability?
Exactly.
For young people?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's exactly the whole purpose of our social enterprises.
Okay.
Is to give them some confidence, skills, some on-the-job work experience, some training.
Yeah.
And then, the expectation is after they've worked in one of the businesses for a couple of months that they then go and get a job in the sector that they're interested in.
Oh, good for them. Good for them.
Yeah, so that's really the whole point of it. And then what else do we do? We have a drop-in center. We still are trying to do our original program. This year is our 50th anniversary. And we started Operation Go Home, which is what it used to be called in 1971.
Yeah.
And we helped kids that had run away from home get back home.
Right.
And we're still doing that, but because of the pandemic, of course, the bus lines and via rail are not operating as they normally would. So that has put basically we've had to stop traveling young people unless they're being able to be traveled in a corridor where there is actual service.
Okay. Well, look, that's our time, but best of luck to everyone and well done. $3 a day, $24 a week for food. I don't know. I'd be curious to know how it goes for everyone. I wish them well next week.
Thank you, Rob.
Thanks
about
again.
It.
Yeah,
Think about it
I will.
next week.
I will. Yeah.
Thanks.
$24 a week for food starting February 1st until the 7th. It's Operation Come Home's $24 challenge. Can you even imagine it, ladies and gentlemen, for Operation Come Home? News coming up, and then we're back with your political fix. Rob Snow Show, City News.
One for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Wednesday, January 27th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa, -7 degrees. In Smiths Falls, -5. And here's what's making news at this hour. Councillors warming up the dining room chair and booting up the computer for the first virtual council meeting of the year in Ottawa. We're expecting a full agenda today, including the State of the City address that comes from the mayor. Also issues like Byward Market revitalization, street name changes proposed, COVID mask wearing extension, and an electric vehicle pilot project. City News will keep you up to date on the goings-on at City Hall throughout the day today. If you're going out and about today, keep in mind there was no city parking ban, although we did get a few more centimeters than were initially forecast through the day and overnight. Councillor Carol Ann Meehan says the city is asking you to get the car off the street now so plows can clear the almost 8 centimeters that were recorded at Ottawa International. Canadian Armed Forces dealing with a dramatic increase in the number of troops infected with COVID-19 over the past month. New Department of National Defence figures provided to the Canadian press show nearly 250 Canadian military members tested positive for the illness. That is just since the end of December. Ceremonies are being held around the world today, marking Holocaust Remembrance Day. Pope Francis spoke off the cuff at the end of his weekly general audience, warning warped ideologies can pave the way for another mass extermination. This is the 76th anniversary of the liberation of the Auschwitz death camp in Poland, where Nazis killed more than 1 million Jews and others just at that death camp alone. City News Time, 9:33. I'm Andrew Boyle. For News Anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Strong voice.
Strong opinions.
Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's time for your political fix. Time to score your political fix. And joining us today, President Enterprise Canada, Jason Lietaer is back. Good morning, Jason. It's great to hear from you again.
You too, Rob.
And from Bluesky Strategies, we have Cam Holmstrom on the line. Good morning, Cam.
Good morning, Rob.
It's great to hear from everyone this morning. Let's just jump right into it. The Prime Minister has a vaccine problem. No doses of Pfizer, things heating up with the European Union. He's trying to sound reassuring, but how damaging is this, in your opinion, right now for the Prime Minister and his Liberal Party? Cam Holmstrom.
The longer this drags on, the worse it gets. You know, I've been taking the approach of this of being moderate in my praise on vaccines and moderate in my blame, because frankly we don't have the capacity, but to actually produce it ourselves, we have very little control. But the more this goes on and the more details we're hearing, you saw this news yesterday of this Canadian manufacturer who've been trying to develop a vaccine, has been having trouble getting contact from the government or getting help. when you see stuff like that start to come out, it starts to eat away at people's understanding of why it is we're in the position or the limitations the government has. And I think that's going to continue to be damaging because it raises real legitimate questions about what else did you do? And honestly, the situation with EU is very interesting because obviously the whole point of going to the EU to get it rather than getting it from Michigan was that Donald Trump was in power when we were doing this, and he was denying his PPE earlier. So the thought being, well, geez, you know what, maybe we should go to a place where we can be a little more certain to get it. But if they start blocking us too, the EU that is, then all of a sudden we got a real big problem, and the Prime Minister hasn't really advanced anything to undo that, which would have been to try to create some manufacturing capacity in the short term in country. And that's not a small problem. That's a huge problem. And we'd be the only G7 nation to have that problem, and that would rest on his shoulders.
Yeah, he's trying to reassure the country. This is what he said yesterday.
I can tell you that as of February 15th, we will be back in the hundreds of thousands of Pfizer doses every single week. In my conversation last week with the top folks at Pfizer, they assured me we are very much still on track to receiving all the promised doses by the end of March.
Okay, so that was the Prime Minister yesterday during the Rideau Cottage thing. Jason, what do you think? How damaging is this right now?
No, it's got a huge potential to be damaging.
Okay.
And the reason, we've never been in a situation like this, Rob, where one issue is the only issue, right? So everybody's at the end of the rope. Everybody's mad. It's brother against brother, sister against sister, husband against wife. Husband against husband, wife against wife, whatever situation you're in out there, we've all cooped up in our houses for almost a year now, and everybody's sort of at the end of their rope. It doesn't matter whether you run a small business or you're doing really well financially, or and your debt. It's like all of it. You can just see everybody's tired of it.
Yeah,
and so everybody's got their hope in this vaccine, and that came on pretty fast as well. So remember, in September and October, Trump's out there, and I'm happy to see the end of Donald Trump. Nobody's happier than me.
Sure.
But he's out there saying, we're going to have a vaccine in 2020, and everyone's like, BS, no chance. Like, you're just lying, whatever. And then all of a sudden in November, it got, right around the U.S. election day, oh, there's a vaccine. Like, it looks like it's going to be approved. So we're going to get it this year. And so everyone all of a sudden went from like, this is going to be, there's no end in sight, to oh, wow, I'm shocked that this happened so quickly. And now we're in this like waiting game. And so the PM who, Trudeau's thinking about very strongly about a spring election this year.
Yes.
And he just can't have one if the vaccine rollout is seen to be a disaster.
Right.
And the other thing that is happening, they're starting these weird fights with provinces on vaccine, and it's really weird because let's say that they've done a C+ job, right? Like they screwed up the CanSino thing, that like they threw all their eggs in one basket.
Yeah. Did you both read Charlie Pinkerton's story in iPolitics? He's going to join us a little later this morning. I'm looking for it. That's a bombshell story.
Yeah, no, and I've been talking about this for I think Amir Adaran wrote this, and like if you've been paying attention, what you do know and what your listeners need to know is we threw our lot in with a partnership with China. Days later, it became clear that it was not going to happen, and then we had to scramble for the other vaccines like Pfizer, Moderna, all that kind of stuff, and it cost us some time. And so why you would want to be starting fights on this, I have no idea, but it looks like the federal government is determined to do so over the next couple of months, and how those fights play out, I think, is going to be determinant to whether or not they're successful.
Because I think the conventional thinking is, Cam, and you're not a conventional thinker most of the time, Cam, but nevertheless, I think the conventional thinking was Mr. Trudeau wants to go sooner rather than later when it comes to the timing of an election, right? But can he really trigger an election, engineer his own defeat, whatever the case might be, with the vaccine situation the way it is right now?
Heck no. And to be honest, even if the vaccine situation were rolling out perfectly right now as planned, we still wouldn't be having people vaccinated well into the summer, almost into the end of the summer. So the idea of the spring election has always been a non-starter for me, just for that reason. But also, let's just face it, there's also these new variants out there. On Monday, Simon Fraser University put out some modeling based on the British variant and what it might look like when that takes hold. And basically the graphs are just a straight line up. It's scary as heck. Like right now, things are not great, but they could be a whole lot worse in a month or two, or 6 to 8 weeks from now. And who the heck, we don't want to go to a campaign now. Who the heck is going to want to do it then? And I honestly think that there's a lot of cold water being poured on these ideas in Ottawa right now. And when it comes to even in this environment, just the logistics of trying to trigger that election, trying to create the rationale that you had to go now. Typically, you're trying to throw it on the opposition, saying, "Well, they won't help us. To heck with them. We're going to have an election." The fact is, there's no way all three of the opposition parties are going to gang together right now to vote out this government. And it's not out of any love for the government. It's out of greater responsibility to knowing that this is not the time to do this. Stuff's getting passed. Things are getting done. The government has not run into any major roadblocks in any of its legislation since it came to power almost 18 months ago. So there is no reason under normal times to go to a campaign, let alone now in the middle of this crisis.
Okay. What travel restrictions? I should ask you, what do you think is ahead on travel restrictions, other than what's been announced already? What do you think? Any idea?
I'll believe it.
Quarantine hotels? I mean, is that where we're going here, basically? Quarantine hotels?
You know what? I'll believe it when I see it when it comes to this, because, and honestly, all governments have done this, and it's bothered me from all of them. This idea of, we basically publicly indicating, we might do this, we might do that, as if it's some kind of warning for people to smarten up and act right, and then all of a sudden they won't have to do it. But they never want to pull the trigger. We've seen Premier Ford do it. We've seen Premier Kenney do it. Horgan,
they all say they won't hesitate to do something, and then they don't do anything.
Exactly. So I'm at the point with this where it's like, this is every time that tactic gets used, it gets more and more worn and less effective. So, unless you're actually going to do it, do it. The only hope I have in this right now is you're starting to see provinces starting to crack down a bit more. Manitoba is no longer allowing people in without a 14-day quarantine. Same thing in Quebec. I think people are realizing what's coming around the corner with these newer variants, and they're finally taking this a little more seriously. So that might be my only hope, that if the Prime Minister is really saying they're going to do this, or they're thinking about it, they're actually thinking about it. But again, I'll believe it when I see it.
Okay. Jason, quick comment, travel restrictions?
Yeah, I mean, this is for one reason and one reason only. They want to stop people from booking March break trips, right? So they're sending a message out to everybody saying there's going to be some uncertainty. I don't think we'll ever get to quarantine hotel, like the full quarantine like South Korea and New Zealand, because, like, let's face it, there's 20,000 trucks coming across the border every day in Ontario, and those guys aren't quarantining. So it's really hard to sort of stem this dike. But they're trying to say to everybody, don't book that vacation. You're not going to Florida. You're not going to the Caribbean. And I think it's going to actually, I got 2 calls from people asking me if they were serious. I think the message is actually getting through.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about the Payette problem. Okay, she's gone. She's resigned. See you later. Don't let the cat door hit you on the way out. The problem now is the pension and what to do about that, because well, I guess to borrow a well-used phrase, it's like a stinking albatross. $150,000 a year for the rest of her life, like just a enormous sum of money for a pension for someone who had been on the job barely 3.5 years. Could this turn into Justin Trudeau's like $16 glass of orange juice, or Stephen Harper's $90,000 check that Nigel Wright wrote to Mike Duffy? I've always been told $400 billion deficits in one ear, out the other. People can't understand it. $150,000 a year for the rest of your life after working a job for 3 years. I think a lot of Canadians can relate to that kind of thing, and they won't relate to it favorably. I think it could be a lingering political problem. Jason, what do you think?
It's devastating. To your point, Canadians can describe it, can understand it. It's enshrined in legislation, which makes it really difficult. And, it brings up the uncomfortable questions. What did Mr. Trudeau and Ms. Payette talk about when they were just together, for those couple of hours when he was trying to get her to resign? And what did their lawyers talk about? And, they are in a very, very, very difficult bind. And the truth is, I think this is going to be reminding people of Mr. Trudeau's huge mistake here. This was an error in judgment that was, he's all about sizzle, not about the steak. Sometimes it works out for him, sometimes it doesn't. This time it was a stupendous failure, not just for him and for Canada. Yeah. So it is one of those things that the truth is, though, if we weren't in a global pandemic, we would have been spending 4 weeks dissecting this. There would be legal experts on CBC and CTV every day telling you why we can't see the secret deal and all that kind of stuff. This one went away within 2 or 3 days. I hope for his sake and for Canadians' sake that people remember that this happened. But the truth is we've got no attention span right now for anything other than when am I getting the vaccine.
Okay. Cam? Agree, Cam?
I'll agree with Jason on that last point, because it's true that our minds are focused where it should be right now, which is frankly matters of life and death on the pandemic. But that being said, the idea that she gets to keep that money, and she's not that old. She's quite young as a governor general. She's going to be around for probably 25, 30 years. So you think what that's worth in the grand scheme of things. And you know what? The thing that bothers me the most about it is obviously there's cause for her to have been removed. And to me, that right there makes for a good legislative change. Because if you can be removed for cause, like that whole, when you read what came out in the report and the allegations of physical assault, like, I'm sorry. Basically, if you're giving her the pension, you're saying that didn't matter, and that sends a terrible signal. And if I were one of the opposition parties, this is a ready-made opposition day motion, ready to write itself, and put the government on the record of actually defending this or looking to move it. But the other thing, too, is that if this were a governor general who genuinely liked the job, who actually poured themselves into it, who actually served faithfully and had a momentary mess up and were paying for it, I could feel maybe a little differently about it. But the fact is, it was clear from day one, she didn't want this job. She didn't want to do the job. She just wanted the title and the money. And and when you read the stories about this, it was her constantly trying to avoid doing this job day in and day out. And frankly, being mad at those who had the nerve to suggest that she do it. Like to me, that just pushes me over the edge. It's like, look, you're being asked to perform a nice ceremonial function that, while a lot of labor can help uplift people and be good, and you looked at that as some kind of cross to bear, like you were being put upon, and how, oh, woe is me, this is so terrible. Like, give me a break. Right now, there are about 35 million Canadians who would love to trade places with her for 4 years. So that there alone tells me, take it away from her. And I don't care what the precedent is on this one. This is an unprecedented case, and it deserves an unprecedented reaction.
We're going to stop here. The former Governor General has been to space, but has Aaron O'Toole failed on the launch pad? We'll talk about that next. It's your political fix. Rob Snow Show, City News.
When you've lost your breasts, you've sort of lost part of yourself. And then all at once, you're losing your hair. You don't know who you are anymore. You want to feel like yourself again. So I think that a mastectomy store is essential, because you've lost your identity. And then all at once, you're looking for a wig, you need a headscarf, you need a camisole. There's nowhere to go, there's no one to talk to. This should be essential, because there are more and more women that are getting breast cancer. I think it's 1 in 6. They're becoming younger. I have a client that's 18 years old. And where do they go? They need a place like this that the women that work there understand. They know what you're going through. It's changed quite a bit. Our hours are different. We're now open from 10 to 5. We're not as busy as we were. A lot of women are afraid to go out. They're afraid that maybe there are more people in the store. So that's why I try and let them know, you are alone. There's absolutely nobody in the store except you and I. If there is a woman that she's very afraid, I will lock the door to make sure nobody else comes in. I'll put a sign back in 10, 15 minutes, just to give her that reassurance. Before, we would have 4, 5, 6 people in the store. We didn't have to turn anybody away. Now we do. Some clients do leave and they're upset because they're in the store. They said, we drove 20 minutes and now we're not allowed in the store. And I try to make them understand that there's somebody in here that's going through chemo or radiation. So that's sort of changed a lot, that we're not able to have more people in the store.
If we're talking about products, there's the bras that are adapted for mastectomy, the bathing suits that are adapted to mastectomy. We have special camisoles as well, and post-surgery bras. And then we have, for women going through chemo, the wigs that we have a big selection in the store as well. We have scarves. Some women don't feel comfortable wearing a wig. They prefer to wear a scarf or a hat, so we have a huge selection of that as well. We offer compression garments as well. When you're going through a mastectomy, you might have lymphedema in your arms after a couple of years, and you have flare-ups. So we have the sleeves, the hand as well that can be covered. We show each other's our scar. We talk about the treatments, how we felt, and I guess that's what they're looking for here. That's what makes us special. We have an added value in this store. Besides everything that's in the store, that's a product that can handle any problem that a client might have. Me and Linda, we've been through. We know how it feels in our bodies.
The world is changing.
So keep up with Rob.
The Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News.
Part 2.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Of your political fix, Jason Lietaer is the president of Enterprise Canada. Cam Holmstrom is a consultant with Bluesky Strategy. So I have the latest polling data. It's from the Angus Reid Institute. Federal politics, Liberals hold lead in vote intention. Unfavorable views of CPC leader intensify. So talking about Aaron O'Toole, this is what it says. New public opinion data from the nonprofit Angus Reid Institute finds nearly half, 47% in this country have an unfavorable view of Aaron O'Toole, a 16-point increase. Since last September, when fewer than 1/3, 31% felt the same. 1 in 5 remain unsure about him. And like the top line number right now is Liberals 35, Conservatives 30, NDP 20. That's kind of where we are in popular support. But what do you think is going on, Jason Lietaer, with the unfavorables for O'Toole, the so-called negatives, the 16-point increase since September? What do you think could be behind that?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a great question. It's been hard to punch through on anything positive for anybody, I would say, in these last little bit. And I would say that Mr. O'Toole had a pretty good first couple of months as leader, and then a couple of just controversies around his group. The Derek Sloan stuff. There's a little bit of recency bias on this, and it sort of attaches itself to you. And I will say as well, just in general, what happened in the United States over the last 2 months, I think infects and continues to infect, conservative parties, and certainly our Conservative Party federally. And so I think, this is a challenge that needs to be, overcome. And I think, there's a mixture there of recommendations, which are focus on the things that you can do some help on, get a little bit better known, because the truth is Aaron O'Toole is a caricature to most Canadians right now, and most people have never even seen a picture of him or have heard him speak. And third, you do have to be very clear about distancing yourself from some of the crazy malarkey that's going on down south. But the only elixir for this is to be better known, because when you're a suburban dad who's a veteran, you shouldn't have those kinds of negatives. So they've got to sort of pull up their socks.
Yeah, a few kind of internal things, right? You had the Derek Sloan thing, and hopefully they've I think they've finally taken care of that. Maybe waited too long, and then the League of the Residential Schools thing to a crowd of young rabid conservatives certainly did not help. So. Just a couple of things, maybe, that I can think of.
Yeah, every new leader has a couple of missteps. In my experience, I actually think he's done probably 10 to 12 things that I've looked and said, "Oh man, that's a really smart idea that no one's ever seen." And so I really do like him. I really do like his team, and I like his persona and personality. And I think most Canadians will definitely think when they look at him that he's a hell of a lot better than Mr. Scheer, for example. But most Canadians, honestly, he's a rumor to most Canadians right now. And what they've heard has been little snippets of not positive stuff.
Right.
So
okay.
Turn that around.
Okay. What do you think, Cam? Negative impressions up 16 points.
To me, I'm not as surprised, mostly because this was his dilemma when he decided to get into this race to begin with. He made a very conscious choice that after 2017, he obviously clearly felt that he could not be elected as Conservative leader today without taking a harder turn to the right. Because even what I've known of him personally and people I know who like him very personally or really politically moderate, they say they didn't recognize this person who ran in that leadership race because it wasn't. He was trying to create a persona that was different. That was more that was more hardcore conservative.
True blue.
Yes, exactly. And this created a problem for him. When the race was over, because this is typical leadership races, you tend to move more towards the base and then more towards the center after you win. The problem was that which person were you going to get on the other side, and how was that going to look to people, and what were people going to take from it? I think that's part of the problem, is that he did not have the confidence to run as who he is truly and who he always was going to be. And that created this situation where now he's having to make choices. You mentioned the Sloan one is a good example. There were many points along the way where Derek Sloan could have been booted from that caucus. And the fact that it took a donation from a neo-Nazi to do it, it's like that's an extremely low bar, but there were a lot of other places along the way where he could have done exactly what he did, but he didn't, because he was still trying to strike that balance. He was still trying to move that. I think, to Jason's point, I think that's what, when you saw what happened in the States, changed the calculus, because all of a sudden things had gone way too far in the States, and all of a sudden, like, okay, now we need to lower this to lower the temperature, and that made the push. But really, at the end of the day, this is what he created for himself. The image that's out there is the one that he put out there. And to me, the irony of it is that he's at that point without a single attack ad being done against him, without any real effort from the opposition parties, short of a few press releases, to actually paint him as that. He painted himself as that. The other thing I would throw out there, though, is that one thing he could be doing in this moment that he's not doing is really being more propositional in opposition than oppositional. I've been just a question period this week going at it about Keystone, going about vaccines. It's an attack about the problem, which is fair, but offering no actual solution as to what he would do differently.
Okay.
I think people's minds are very open to that right now. Like right now, people are exasperated. We're tired. We're open to ideas as to how to get this done and make it work. And if you don't have any of that to offer, you're missing a golden moment, which I think plays into that too.
Okay. Look, we only have a minute left, so here I just a quick short answer. We'll talk about the NDP some other time. Battleground Ontario, it'll probably come down if and when there's an election. Let's face it, 905-416. It always comes down to that. Where Doug Ford is right now in his political life, is he a benefit or a hindrance to his federal friends? Quick answer, Jason. What do you think?
Huge benefit. Doug Ford's going to win the 905 next time. He's a huge benefit right now.
Okay.
Tough down, then at heights he could never sustain, but he's in a very good position right now politically vis-a-vis Ms. Horvath and Mr. Del Duca.
20 seconds or less, Cam Holmstrom.
I think
help or hurt?
Honestly, today I would say he's neutral. I think going forward it can only get worse. Because he's starting to revert to his old self, the old self that had him tanking in the polls and had him very unpopular. And honestly, as this crisis gets worse, unless Doug really does kind of revert back to the Doug Ford we saw in the